especially wanted to do this topic here in the holidays because traditionally, you know, if companies do anything, they'll do something at year end with the holidays and whatnot. And of course, recognition, should be done throughout the year, and it should be done ideally in response to desired behavior and performance, core values, objectives, and whatnot. But as a catch-all, because I know a lot of companies don't do that, I wanted to talk about how to make this time of year more meaningful in whatever you do, whether it's a big party or you got not much budget, and that's okay. I'm going to try to use ideas at the whole spectrum. So things that don't cost anything that could be meaningful, and things that don't cost too much that could be fun. And of course, want to, if any of my ideas trigger one you have, please add a comment and share ideas that you have or things that you've seen or you've experienced that worked well. So we're gonna cover these things: strategies for increasing meaning and fun, office party ideas, activities, and games, how to incorporate virtual and remote employees was an issue for many of you, creative and trending employee gifts. You want to be cutting edge, and just for fun, what not to do at your holiday party. So some things should go without saying, but maybe they should be, just to make sure. And then questions. I got a bunch of questions in. They were all over the map, which I like, but I'll probably just going to address the ones that tie to the topic of our webinar today on things to do with holiday and end of the year. I will respond to all the ones that came in, by the way. And with that, kind of start with the philosophy for year-end recognition. And my advice is to start with your employees. Okay, don't have the whole thing decided by one executive or a team of two or three, but really reach out to employees and say, what do you want to do? What do you want to do this year? Or and if you had a hard year, and it's okay to acknowledge that. I think part of all this is to use the context of the times that you're in. So it's companies have good and bad years and up and down years. So it's whatever you do, give a context and say, we're able to do what we are because we had this success this year, or and even if even if you don't have a lot you can do, you're not doing a big party, that's okay to still have sincere messaging to say this is a time of year where we value the people that have helped us throughout the year, and we thank them and thank each other, and look forward to the next year. And so it's okay, and you should do some of those things to provide a context for the whole event. If it's just solely a party or a dinner, you're missing some of the leverage you could have to give a context to the times and the specific individuals that you have in your organization. You want to personalize what you do as much as possible. Generic recognition that's everyone did such a great job this year, that doesn't resonate very well. I mean, you could make a statement like that and you can be proud of the team and what of the company and what's happened, but if you can wade into the specifics of the projects and the departments, the functions that really shined this year, and maybe even calling out some individuals, and publicly, if people don't like public, that's okay. Find ways to make it more personal. You can have and I'll come back to that topic. Be creative and have fun. I find that the worst is to say, well, what did we do last year? Let's do that again. It's kind of 66% of companies are planning a holiday party for 24. That's up from 57% last year. So the trend and along with the easing of the pandemic is people like to connect in person, and this is a classic time to do that. It's a little more challenging if you've got a percentage of people, or maybe a great percentage of people that are virtual, and then you got to think of how to do something maybe more online, or to include them even as you have a physical in-person meeting. How can you have an open camera? How can you have a station where people can say hi to people that are remote, things like that. But most companies are leaning towards doing an event, and on that, let me just give you some examples. Again, the spectrum. So if you can host an event activity, that is, you can go do something that's just for lunch or just for dinner, but you can also do an activity that at some place that already has an entertainment involved with it. So give you an example. A few years ago, my wife came home and said, "Well, we're doing a kind of a cafeteria thing for Christmas this year at work." And I go, "Really?" I go, we can do a better job than that. And she went back and told them and said, "Okay, well, show us." And so what we did is we took moved all the furniture out of our house, and we hosted a casino night. And we got the budget they had, and you have a sit down dinner that could be expensive. If you're doing fun and games and mingling, you don't need a big heavy dinner. You got snacks and nuts and some beers, and so you save a lot of budget there. And we always go beyond what you have money for, and look for other ways to do things. So for example, we went to the executive team and we asked them each to donate something for the casino night, for a door prize. And so one guy had a cabin. He donated a week at this cabin in the summer. Someone else had a boat, and a afternoon out on the boat was an item. I remember one executive could play guitar, and so he offered to do a serenade somebody as a thank you, at the recipient's calling, sometime in the future, etc. So you don't need a lot of money to have fun. You just need you need to kick around some ideas. You got to think of what's something we've never done before. If you just do the same old thing, it's going to be boring. And so kick it out some. You can do something like at medieval times. You're having a dinner, but you're having a show too, and it could be families. I had an executive that said, he used to always decide what to do, and it never really worked for everybody. So he stopped. He stopped that, and he found a millennial and had put him in charge of doing it. And the guy checked with everybody, surveyed people, and came up with something. And they did it medieval times, and everyone loved it. Top Golf, Dave and Buster's are all oh, hey, sorry. Um, Bowling party, an escape room. If you haven't done some things like this, maybe it's a throwback. Maybe it's something that's new in our community. We just got a Top Golf. It's kind of fun. We did a neighborhood thing there, and lots of activities, and they have kind of snack foods and whatnot. So think of something that's maybe different than you've done before. Now, another idea that is a great one that I first experienced when I worked with Ken Blanchard companies, and then I've done it several times with my own company with people. Is that you get everyone together and say, okay, everyone gets $50 cash or $30 cash, whatever you got, and they can afford. And what we're going to do is for the next hour, we want you to team up with someone that you don't know here in the company, and go out shopping. And we want you to buy something with that money for yourself. Because holidays is always about giving to your spouse and your kids, and people never get anything for themselves. So it's kind of it puts a twist on the whole event, and and then everyone comes back and they report what they got and why, and it's just a good time. It's fun, it's funny, and so you might try something like that. It works very well. You can have when I worked with Hallmark cards, I thought it was very, very cool that they had remember a store manager, you got everyone together for a holiday lunch, and then he handed out some certificates, achievement certificates, but he did it a different way. He would read the achievement, and he'd ask the group, "Who's it for?" And they would debate, and they would, go back and forth, and then they'd usually get the person that was for, but just by turning it into an activity and just handing out pieces of paper, it made it more fun and more of a group effort. So that I thought was kind of cool. Now, again, to me, especially you want to add meaning to whatever you do. So, currently, more than half of employees say that they weren't and have not been recognized for the contributions they made to their organizations. It's really sad, because if you want to, eventually you're going to demote into people that you're gonna lose them if you don't value what they've done for you. And so this is a good time if you've had a busy year and you haven't gotten around to it. This is a good time to do that, to call out, talk about the successes you've had, the projects, the activities. And again, I know some people don't like to be called out publicly, and ideally you'd know who that was and you wouldn't do that to them, but a lot of other people like something being said publicly. So, but making time to focus on the context of the achievements and successes, I think is important. You want to another no-cost thing that's very powerful, you cut to the meaning, is write a letter to your direct reports. I did this a couple of years ago. I had 16 people reporting to me, and I took 2 hours, and I wrote each of them a letter. I hand wrote it, and what I did is I just reflected on that person over the last year, and things that they had done that stood out, and things that I was proud of, and successes they've had, and that was it. And it wasn't that hard. It took a little time, but not that much. And I passed out these letters to everyone. I had 2 of my employees cry. They were so touched by it. So you never know where people are at, and everyone likes to hear that they have value to you, the manager, and to the organization, because no one's just working for a paycheck. So if you don't add this value along the way, you end up losing the people. If you do have the opportunity to hand out bonuses, personalize it. Allow individual managers to do that with their team members. Some companies, like the CEO, would pass around checks, and he'd write a note on the envelope, beforehand, a little personal message. Simple but meaningful to the person that gets it. That you might consider, if you're giving cash or gift cards, to have a puzzle box. I got a sample here. You can get these online. This is like $9, and what it is, you put cash in it, and to open it, you gotta solve the maze and make a little game out of it. And also they make them for credit cards, not credit cards, or gift cards rather, as well. So again, adding something different makes it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more fun. Now, if you have a party no one wants to come, it's not much of a party. I had a number of people ask questions about, what if no one wants to? What if there's people that don't want to do anything? Well, first of all, don't force them if they don't want to do it. Don't make them come. Don't make them speak if they don't want to do it, because then they'll really resent you. But do keep inviting them, to ask them, tell them that you'd like them to come. They have some hesitations, and then also don't let them muck it up for everyone else. you know, yeah, oh, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of money. They should, instead of putting money into the party, they should have given it to us. You got to shut that down and say, hey, Jerry, I know you got your opinion, but I'd ask you not to be a downer on what we're trying to do at an uptime of the year. It's okay if you want to participate, but don't be the rotten apple in the barrel that spoils it for everybody, please. And then if they don't take that seriously, you got to come down a little bit harder and say, I thought I made it clear, but don't do this anymore. Because it just doesn't help. So give you some other activities here. Don't just do what you did last year. One of the keys to making an exciting party or an event or whatever it is get people involved. Ask people to play different roles. If someone is handling decorations, ask them to have them get some other people to help them. More hands make lighter work, and as people are involved, it becomes more their event instead of something that's put on for them. One of the things I learned from Ken Blanchard is the best management is what you do with people, not what you do to them. So involve people in the planning and the activities in the event, as much as possible. And can have trivial pursuit with annual company facts, and then a prize for the person that does the best. You can have posters of the year's successful projects for people to, as you're mingling, you could go around and have a picture of the team and what they accomplished, significance to the company, and have those around on the walls on where you're meeting. Again, a simple idea, but kind of bring in that context again. You can have party stations with different activities. These are all things I've done for different events. Magician or comedian, having a fortune teller. And for those people that use that, they really get into it, and then that kind of made the whole event for them. A pianist or a guitarist is nice, especially if that's from your employee population. Even that you get to see a different side of the talent that you have. Showcase that. You can have a photo booth, and there's all sorts of ways that you could do that very low cost these days. That I've got a neighbor that does it you could do it with your laptop, and it's very cool. You can have dance lessons if you have music and you're doing maybe do some Western songs and have some line dance instructor or just someone that knows how to do it to explain to everybody. Door prizes and contests, again, simple to do, gives another activity during the event. That tends to make it more fun. I'll give you some other examples here as we go. This one company in Cleveland, executives, they had not the best year and they wanted to do something for employees, and so they said they made a commitment, and they announced that over the upcoming winter the executive team was going to clear the snow off all cars. So every time it snowed, they'd go out in the parking lot, and it was a personal gesture which made it more meaningful. And I have some people complain about that, but most people would appreciate the intent and that they're trying. And if it was a tough year, something again, not that expensive, but again, maybe not for everyone, but if you got some people on your team you want to call out, Cameo is kind of a cool, fun thing. This you can get, it's unbelievable. You got to at least just go check it out and look who's available, because there's actors, there's sports people, there's like this guy, Elvis. He looks like Elvis, he talks like Elvis, he plays guitar and sings like Elvis. I've got someone I work with that's Elvis nut, and I commissioned this guy for like $50 to here's the guy's favorite songs, and he just did a fabulous job, and just like in 5 minutes, and did a thank you, you've had a really good year, and this one's for you from the King, and he played a couple of his favorite songs, and I gotta think that that employee showed it to 100 people, so you get a lot of mileage out of it, and just it was fun. And so now some people are going to cost more. I saw that George Santos is doing doing Cameo now for like $400 a pop. That'd be kind of a bad joke though. So give you some other ones that don't cost money. You can use time. There's a Boston company that created Winter Fridays that they let some people leave early on during December on Friday if they had achieved their goals this week or this month, that type of thing. Or there's a company in Los Angeles that they gave at the end of the year, they gave all employees 2 extra vacation days. Essentially, they call them "I don't want to get out of bed" days. And so and they said, we know people are stressed. We're shorthanded, whatever it might be, and we just want you to know that better than anyone when you need a break. And so the upcoming year, we want you to call in. We want everyone to call in and say, I'm not calling in sick. I'm calling in. I don't want to get out of bed. and go to the park, go to your kid's school, go to a museum, do something different, just for you, for fun. And again, that time has some cost to it, but again, if you're looking to create something from nothing, the use of time or favors, you can have give people favors that they can call on. I have one company that AAA of Southern California, they have what's called Dump a Dog, that they if you have any employee can give if they get this award, they have the option to give one of their assignments to their boss to do for them. It's quite popular. You think it's so easy, here, you try it. And again, creating from nothing something that can be fun and have some meaning. Now got a number of questions about virtual and remote employees. Again, we're kind of on a new turf here. That most companies, like 86% of companies, have a mixed in-person and hybrid. 16% have total virtual employees at this point. And most companies are working it out. They don't know where it's going to end, but right now there is a mix. So you want to make them feel included. If you have an event, have a video link where they could be seen and people can come up and talk to them. Acknowledge people that aren't physically present. If they are listening, you can call, or even if they're not, calling out the work they've done. You want to be equitable in your treatment. So, for example, in the dollars you spend. So if you have a party and you end up spending X numbers per person, whatever it might be, say it's $75, maybe send that person an Amex gift card that has you put an amount, and they can take it anywhere for dinner with their spouse or significant other, as an example. So be creative, but also be equitable. You don't want it to be that the people that are working remotely already feel out of sight, out of mind. So you want to make sure that you have them firmly in mind, and you have a way to reach out to them and include them as best you can in the activities. Ideally, if they came in then that'd be great. But if they can't, and that's the reality, then you got to do something where they're at, and that could be something on Zoom, a Zoom thing for the company or for your department. You don't just have to rely on what the company overall is doing. You can have your immediate work group where you do something different, special. For some ideas for customizing holiday fun for your virtual team, you can have Secret Santas. I know Hyatt does this. They have, for their virtual people, they have the Secret Santas. They actually do it throughout the year. And they ask one person is assigned to someone else to keep an eye on the things they're doing, to be able to call out and thank them for successes they've had and share those with the group. For example, you could have holiday decoration contests, and people send a picture, or maybe even show you, here's what we did, here's how we did our tree, or here's how we did our lights. Again, and then the contest has some prizes. It could be swag, or it could be some fun things. you can do an activity together, baking Christmas cookies together, for example, or you can do team stuff even with people that are virtual. And if you haven't tried this, you got to try it. So hey, we're gonna make Christmas cookies. We're gonna send everyone pancake batter. We're gonna make pancakes together. As a group activity. And again, just it's a time of spending, getting to know people off business is what we're talking about. Increasing rapport, getting to know people you don't know, and sharing. All rapport comes from shared experiences. And so you've got less opportunities to have shared experiences with people that are virtual unless you are intentional about creating something where they can be a part of. Um, you can for creative and trending employee gifts. Again, this is all over the map, but like one place I've worked with that is especially good at this, Snappy, out of New York City. You give them the price you're willing to spend per person, and they give them a curated list, everything within the budget. It could be $10 a person, or $30, $25 a person, or $50 a person, and those people get a curated list within that price range of just the coolest gifts you've ever seen. They're very, it's not stuff you can pick up at a store, Costco or something. They're unique gifts and they're fun. And so, if you haven't, that might be, there's other versions of this too. Of course, you can give people, Amazon gift cards and they get whatever they want, but that's not quite, doesn't have the same pizzazz to it as getting a gift where, and Snappy has a whole electronic thing where you're opening the gift and confetti goes off and stuff like that as they select what they have selected, and it's really cool. Just cruising on some of the latest things, scented candles. Here's a And then these maybe ones you've used or not, but coffee mug holders. I've got one here, and I use it. It's great. It works. And otherwise, I'd have two sips of tea or coffee, and that would be it because it'd go cold. And now it stays warm all day. It's great. You can do a popcorn kit, and that's kind of fun. Or even take it down a notch. This is a microwave popcorn maker. It's the coolest thing. I think it's a $7 from Walmart, and it doesn't even take oil. You put half cup of popcorn in, you hit the popcorn button on the microwave, and voila, you got a tub of popcorn. You could use that in the ongoing year to have let's get some popcorn, talk about this, have informal meetings. This one's actually even collapsible, so you can store it easily as well. Again, think outside the box. This is a cell phone holder. Something I saw that's latest. You can give out succulents. If you have a party and you have party favors, bring a bunch of succulents. Have people pick one, kind of a memento of the evening, of the lunch, or whatever it might be. This is an office desk vacuum. And again, there's always lots of electronics and stuff like that. But being creative and having fun, like if you've never ever seen it, you get in a single bags, sandwich type bags. You can put in ingredients for hot chocolate, and with a candy cane and some marshmallows, and you give that to people. And it's a simple gift, but it's a season of the year and kind of fun. So again, be creative if you don't have a lot of budget, and put a little elbow grease into it, and instead, and then have that be an activity to get a group together to make those kits up for everybody. What not to do at your holiday party. This is all maybe common sense stuff that everyone should know anyway, but for some reason, some people let go and stop thinking. Maybe it goes with the increased drinking or what. But this isn't the time to dance provocatively. Or I've got a good friend that he's an executive. I remember years ago he was dating a woman in the company, no one knew about it. And at the Christmas party, they went out dancing, and somebody said something to the chairman of the company, and honest to God, the chairman of the company went out on the dance floor, put his hands on their shoulders, and said, "You two better get out of here." It's like, whoa. So, just it's a very public setting, so be careful on what you do publicly. Later, they had the company lawyer took him out to lunch to see how things were going. I think to make sure he wasn't going to sue the company. But the big one is not drinking to excess, and if some people might be prone to that, maybe ask people to have a buddy system, someone you can watch out for each other, um, to if you need someone to tell them that maybe, hey, maybe it's time to go, or maybe you've had enough, and without making a big scene out of it. uh, don't be kissing people on the lips, hugging people if you don't usually hug them, interrupting people, interrupting the boss or the CEO just to introduce yourselves. That's kind of kind of rude. Again, a lot of this should be common sense. Aggressively pursue people, empower for a conversation. Eh, you know, ask a coworker out on a date. Engage in harassing behavior. Tell someone they work how hot they look. Yeah, and drive home if they've been drinking. The first company I worked for in my career, we'd have Christmas parties, and a lot of it's easy to get out of hand with alcohol, and they had hard drinks and whatnot, and some people would just get bombed, and then some would, I'm okay to drive, and we had a guy, um, left the party a little tipsy, was killed on the way home from an accident. You want to have a downer in your Christmas season, don't have that happen. So stick to wine and beer for starters. Maybe do 2 drink coupons. So that you can kind of keep a lid on it. And these are all ideas from the SHRM HR Daily newsletter. And like I said, a lot of this might be common sense, but sometimes that's in short supply. So um, again, Zach mentioned that for being with us today, we got a few items. Everyone that registered, even if you didn't make it here, you get a newsletter I did with ideas dedicated to end of the year holidays. So everyone gets that. If you are on the call at this point, if you checked in here, you get this cool little book I just love. Actually, it's not mine. One of my publishers did it, but it's 187 different great inspirational thoughts, each by a creative artist. Very cool, very fun. It's like giving someone pure goodness, and you get one of those, and I've got this and all my books on sale. So if you like it, you want to get them off, for your team or whatever. This is the time to do it. And then if you did ask a question, even if it isn't answered, I will try to answer all of them. But if you have a question, you send in a question. You get a copy of something to help you all next year. 365 ways to manage better. Practical ideas with a way to put them into practice. So examples with ways to put those ideas in practice by thought leaders and business people. Just a daily reminder to thank people and to acknowledge them along the way, because we all need help doing this. Everyone needs this, and everyone needs help to remind the gratitude piece, to remind you of no matter how tough things in, all the good things that are going well, and the fact that this person's in your life, and that's worth something right there. So you want to celebrate all those things. So the newsletter you get electronically. The other items, if you get those, you can't get them without an address. So I got to get an address, and Achieve is going to send, or maybe it has done it already, a sign-up sheet for your address. Again, these are physical items, and you will get them if you submit an address. So on questions, I got a bunch in, and they're all over the map. So I just want to talk about a couple of them that relate specifically to the topic that we're on here. So, um, uh, Melanie Chandler said, "How is recognition at year end different from recognition throughout the year?" Well, actually, it doesn't necessarily. It's an occasion where you can do more, but ideally, you want recognition throughout the year, and you want it tied to performance more than presence. So year-end stuff is tied to year-end. So that kind of goes against the grain of the fundamental philosophy of effective recognition. But um, ideally, throughout the year, you want to tie recognition to job well done, desired behavior, and performance as close as possible to when it happens. So this, as I indicated initially, for some companies, they don't do that. And this is like the catch-all to say, well, just make sure that we do it, at least at year end, and talk about what everyone contributed and the projects that got done and the successes the company had and who helped make those happen. Pack that in as much as you can now, verbally, in writing. A letter from the president to everyone outlining some of those is another strategy. We had Carla Dewey Goings submitted a question that said, last year the company I worked for gave the same gift to all employees. All right. Most employees were thrilled with the gift, but of course there are always some that were never happy no matter what you did. This year, the next year we decided to have each manager do gifts for their teams, and every manager had a per dollar amount per team member, and they could do what they want. Of course, it varied greatly with how creative the manager was and whatnot, and so that caused animosity between teams. Someone's manager did a better job than my manager did. I've got to, so what's the answer is the question. And I think whenever you can provide choice, it increases the motivational connection. So where possible, provide choice. So maybe it's one of a couple things, or ideally it's with each person in mind. You did something because you know that they're into that, or they've got this hobby, or they've got dogs, or whatever it might be. So it's tailored to the person, ideally. But if I had a budget for each person that manager controls, I would say let the employees decide how we use it. Okay, because some, as a team, they'll decide, let's pull our budget and let's do an activity, and let's go to a movie together, or let's go and work on homes for Habitat for Humanity, and go out for lunch afterwards. So an activity, and use the budget for a meal. Others might say, let's give everyone the budget, have them buy gifts, and then do a gift exchange. And you can have some joke gifts in there and that's a kind of a classic. I did something like this with my group, a gift exchange, and I remember I got, and it was actually random, but as the boss of the group, I got, I'm not kidding, hissing cockroaches. They're about 4 inches long. I've never seen anything like it. And they had snakes, and that's what they fed them. And that was it was a funny gift, and and the fact that the boss got it had nothing to do with it. Okay, but in fact, another question I got was, what about doing something for the boss? And man, managers need recognition too, so yes. And how can you do something, the person asked, how can you do something without making it look like you're brown nosing? And I say, just be from the heart, be sincere, have fun with it too. I had one year in celebration, I had employees that worked for me. They did. I've gotten traditional gifts from employees, but I remember one year I got. What's probably what I remember more is they got creative, and they knew I write books, so they took a book and they put a cover jacket on, and then they titled it If I'm in charge here, why is everyone laughing? By Bob Nelson, and they had this, quotes from different people in the company, and I'm sure they had a blast putting it together, and it was fun. It was very fun, and again, didn't cost anything. It's just sometimes the ones that you could be creative are worth more. I got a number of questions about what do we do when we're nonprofit or government and we don't have the money. Well, first, stop hiding behind that fact. So every company I've worked with has constraints. You identify the constraints and you work around them. So yes, you can't. If you work for a government, you can't give gifts because that's going to be in the front page of the paper, and use of taxpayer money, and so don't do that. But what else can you do that's fun? What else can you do? Is it a potluck where people of different bring favored family dishes, and if you have different cultures, that makes it more interesting to get to know people. Is it you could be heartfelt and simple. It doesn't, having a good recognition at year end is not a function of how big your budget is. It's a function of how creative you are, and your willingness to do something you haven't done before, and to get buy-in on doing that. I had so there's other, in my book, 1501 Ways to Reward Employees. About 2/3 of the ideas have no cost at all. So if you don't have that book, if you haven't seen it, take a look at that, and once you open your mind up to it, there's really more you can do than you thought, and to see something and try it is worth doing. I had several people ask, how do you engage people that don't want to be a part of things, that don't want to be part of the holiday celebration, and maybe even complain that we shouldn't be spending money on this. As Patricia Schneider was asked about that, as well as others. And I say, one, first rule of having fun, and we call out in our book, Work Made Fun Gets Done, I did with Mario Tamayo, is the rules for having fun. The first one is don't force fun on anyone. No one wants to do okay, are we having fun now? Okay, we're all forced to come do this, and don't do that. It's not worth it. And instead, keep inviting them. Try to use their ideas. Try to get them involved so that their ideas make it, and their the things that they complain about make it to people that could do something about it. So they're not just throwing mud on everything. But do not force people to do things. The holiday party should not be required. If you can't make it, I had one person say, well, we've got someone that's grieving, they're really not, they lost a spouse and they really aren't up for it. Please send them, a great gift basket and say, we're with you during this tough time. You're welcome to come, but we understand if you don't want to. And be human, be considerate. Don't give up on them. Keep inviting them. And then I had wow, I've never had this much time. This is great. I had then questions got into more, not just holiday stuff, but how do you foster end of year recognition to continue throughout the year? Well, there you go. That's what you really want, and take a step and say, what's your strategy? What are we gonna do this year to connect with people? What things, and do you have the tools in place to do that? Which again don't have to cost you a lot. Do you have a recognition platform where anyone could thank anyone else, that actually even that ties to your phone, so you can do it on your cell phone as well? There's wonderful platforms out there that are easy to use and don't cost that much, really. And then and it doesn't have to be all about the gift cards and points and stuff. I work with one incentive company, Online Rewards, and they do a platform just for the recognition communication. One of their clients is Macy's. Macy's does 20,000 stories a month where people are sharing stories, success stories among the team with employees. It's very impactful. Don't think that you have to spend a lot of money to make a big impact when it comes to acknowledging people for the great things they've done. Um, and so if you need help with the strategies of what I do, be glad to help out any way I can, or to connect you with some firms that do demos of what they have to offer. Um, there's a lot of incentive companies. I mentioned a couple, and I've worked with most of them that are out there. So, um, and going a little deeper into ongoing recognition, how do we help get our supervisor and leadership in the mentality to start recognizing? Well, this is this is a big question, and again, so not just for the holidays, but how do we make recognition part of our culture? This is what you really should be doing. In research by Merits, they found that if you have a recognition culture, which is we're always thanking people, we're never too busy to call out performance, that type of thing. We have spontaneous parties, and celebrations. That type of culture, which people love working that type of culture, they've actually tracked it to what's the impact of that? If you have that type of culture, your employees will be 5 times more likely to feel valued than a company that people are just coming to work for the paycheck. 5 times, okay. They'll be 6 times have greater agency. That is to tell everyone they know about a great company that they work for. Oh, and by the way, we've got some openings, that they'd be 7 times more likely to stay with the organization for their career. Here's the price of admission. If you are trying to decide should we do recognition or not, realize in a time where the number one HR challenge for this year has been retention, the number one impact on retention is thanking people for doing a good job, for doing the job they were hired to do, to calling out performance, desired behavior, core values, things that tie to the strategic objectives, to do that systematically and have it open for anyone to do. Leadership, management, yes, but even employees to thank each other. Okay, even involving customers. I've worked with companies that they do a unsung heroes award, and they survey their customers for nominations for their employees that have been impressive to them, and then they do a big thing, and end of the year they give the unsung heroes award, and then they bring up Tony, and then here's the customer that nominated him, that personally delivered it to him. Again, having fun with it, and this would be the time of year to do something like that, and to be a start to make recognition part of your culture on an ongoing basis. And finally, Merits found that companies with the culture of recognition have employees that are 11 times more committed to their jobs, to their managers, to the mission of the organization. If you're looking for a return on investment, it's like an infinite return, because most of the stuff you do on this topic does not need to cost much, if any, money. And the value of someone feeling valued, it's hard to put a price on. But what you get from it is their willingness to stay, to work harder, to go above and beyond as part of a daily routine for them. You don't see that in cultures that aren't great places to work, where they don't have recognition as a priority. So those are a few questions I picked out. Just to say more on getting managers involved. The companies I've seen that do this the best, they don't make it optional. In most organizations, you got good managers, then you got okay managers, then you got bad managers, and it's the luck of the draw if you happen to get one of the good ones. Then you got a good manager, you got a good job. You're happy, your life is good, you're at home, things are good. The average employee spends 15% of their time at home complaining about their boss. Whew. This up the positive ante, and let people feel good about where they work and who they work with and what they're doing with their life and the mission you're achieving for the organization. And the more you can do that, the better place it's going to be, and the easier it's going to be to manage high performers. Um, but again, the companies that do this the best, they don't make it optional. They say, if you're a leader for our organization, if you manage people, we expect you to treat them in these ways. I don't care what your job is. If you're managing people, we expect you to make time with them. One-on-one meetings every couple of weeks, maybe skip level meetings to talk to their boss's boss once a quarter. We're acknowledging successes, having team celebrations or team building activities as a form of reward for successes, along with feedback session for how things went, et cetera, et cetera. And then if managers have a problem with that, then you work on them. And I remember I worked with Kentucky Fried Chicken. They did some wonderful things at Yum Brands, and they'd have a Hall of Fame, and they give out rubber chickens, for just a lot of things, and they'd have like Employee of the Month, but it was there was no limit on the number of people. It wasn't a quota. It wasn't one person. It could be 5 this month. It could be no one this month, because it was a clear criteria. You want recognition to be more meaningful, have a clear criteria when you do it, especially publicly. And if you did each of the core values, for example, you were on the list. And then what they do is that once a month they would bring in, they ask whoever plays a musical instrument to bring it in, and they take that motley crew of, here's a clarinet and a tuba and a drum, and here's a list of people who want you to go and recognize. And they'd go and they'd pack into someone's cubicle on 3, Louie. And it was just a blast. And people, how do you get on that list? 4 core values, and it was so successful they started using a string quartet, and for higher level recognition. Long story short, they had their CFO said, I don't think this is appropriate. This is silly. This is unprofessional. And the CEO said, well, maybe you need to think about, is this really the place for you? Because we will never shy away from celebrating excellence. That's what's going to drive all our success. And 3 months later, that CFO left, and probably for the good of both that person and the company. So you got to call out. Make it a priority, make it an expectation, and then give managers the tools to do it and the reminders to do it. And with that, let me just do a shameless plug and say that all my books are available half off through the end of January. Any quantity. Please check out my website. And with that, thanks so much for being with us today. I hope you got some ideas you could use.